Yeah, it's a privilege to be in front of a group like this, a bunch of really enthusiastic people. Maybe you won't be so enthusiastic when you've heard my talk. But anyway, this is not a negative talk. There's a lot of negative stuff in it, but it's not a negative talk. This is just purely stating things as they are, as we see it and experience it. Okay, now I need tools. There we go. Okay, so just an introduction to this business or company, CMS, Conservation Management Services. This is the entire staff, including the admin people and the marketing people and the scientists and everything. Myself and Wally Struble. And the tree is not a member of the business. It's a large baobab tree in Senegal. This thing's battery is flat. Just go back if you can, one or two. No, again. Okay, so this is our footprint in Africa, and it seems to be spreading by the day. We have done management plans for very large game reserves and hunting reserves all over the place. And very often those management planning exercises become restoration work because it's something that we then identify and that we can go out there and train people and show them how to do stuff. So from Morocco, which is, I'll give some examples just now. It's quite nice to have a spread like this of different things, because what you get is a comparison of all the different types of things that people can do and don't do properly, or in sometimes do properly. Okay, just a few examples of good restoration. So this is the Hunter's Moon Game Reserve near Colesberg in the Cape. In 1999, I was involved with this place for 20 years. And this is what it looks like now after 17 years. But after 17 years with a massive game business running. So they had sable, they had all sorts of things, including white rhino, buffalo, and kudu, etc. So it wasn't a withdrawal thing. It was a wise management thing. And the way that it was done was we took rainfall every year, being a very arid area, and you obviously can't move animals around, but what you can do is manipulate numbers. So it was a constant attention to the manipulation of animal numbers, which were then either hunted or captured and sold. But that's how this veld became like it is, which is quite something. This is right here at Kraafrenet, the Pinars River, which is just other side of town. This is June 2013. This is June 2014. But this didn't happen by chance, and it didn't happen on its own. There are hundreds upon hundreds of erosion control structures built in that veld using geotextiles. So in other words, all you need to do is show nature that you want something to happen. You put in the erosion control structures. They prevent the runoff of water, and they collect seed, etc., etc. So again, something that can happen if you just take the effort. And then the other thing is the constant follow-up. Wherever the water runs around a structure, you fix it. You don't just leave it like usually happens. Okay, this is in a cork oak forest in Morocco. Between the Atlas Mountains and the Mediterranean is one massive cork oak forest in various degrees of degradation, some of it quite good. This is one of our clients has a hunting farm there. So this is what it looked like when they bought, or when they got the land, but then they went and exacerbated the problem by introducing game birds and feeders. So all over the place there are these automatic feeders. And of course, not only the game birds benefited from the feeders, the rabbits, which are indigenous there, also benefited. Soon they had hundreds of thousands of rabbits, which we then had to get rid of. So there's only one way to get rid of rabbits, and that's to have lots of rabbit pie and stew and this kind of thing. And eventually after...
Go one down, please.
No, that's reverse. I'm trying to go forward. There we go. So after a couple of years, after 5 years, this is what that same area looks like. And these, by the way, are not gemsbok. These are Besa oryx from East Africa. So this place breeds game to hunt, but then we've convinced them that you can breed all the game that you want to hunt. It's fine, but let's breed more and put them back where they're becoming extinct. And just recently, they have introduced 40 addax antelope into Chad in the Nakuma National Park, which was bred here. So they're doing something good. They're not just hunting. Okay, next. I'm going to skip this bloody thing. Okay, this is in Malawi, and this is what the slopes look like. It used to be covered in miombo woodland, which is quite a dense woodland, and all the stuff has been cut out and turned into charcoal. It's a huge problem all over Africa, the charcoal thing, and it's because there's no alternative power source. But anyway, we went in there and we taught people how to do soil erosion control, and we used the local material. So geotextiles were not available; it's too expensive. So we did this kind of thing. And how did we hit on this? We noticed the people had little chicken coops standing on poles with a thatched roof, and the walls were built like this. So we just built them into all the gullies and filled them with brush, and the results are quite amazing. And we built contour furrows up steep slopes, and go for it. And more of the same, more, go. And that's basically what the whole area looks like now. They get 1,000 millimeters of rain per year. So all you need to do is hold the water back and get it into the ground. Nature does the rest. The seeds are there. You don't have to plant anything. Okay, and then this is something that we use very widely, especially in the Karoo. Call them hollows, call them dummickies, call them pits. I don't know, there's so many different names. But ponds. But we find it to be very successful, especially in very arid areas. And we've done a lot of training with various organizations, in this case, the National Parks Board. And you can see the results in the next slide. Without planting anything, and once again, nature, birds, you name it, the seeds arrive after rains, and the whole area can become stabilized, as you can see here. There you can see one of those geotextile fences, which is very handy for holding back soil when there's money to do it, because that stuff's expensive. Okay? Here's just a close-up view. Again, nothing planted. This is the removing sisal plants and using the leaves for erosion control, which is quite nice, because there was nothing else that we could use to cover the ground with behind the structures. Okay, and it slows the water down very efficiently. Next slide. And as you can see, all sorts of things start growing in that protected area behind in that sisal material. So it's a good use for a useless plant, really. Next, okay, so this is the first challenge. No alternative fuel source is available. So this is happening in the area where we work in Malawi. The bicycles come out of the mountain, loaded with charcoal, and the big lorries are waiting on the better road, and they get loaded every single day. So you're talking maybe 10 of these, 10 bicycles like this coming out of those hills over there every single day. The big trucks are standing there waiting every single day. So you must know. That's why we're helping a tree planting organization, of all things. We're not tree planters, but they employed us to assist them with ecological work. And we said, the thing you're doing wrong is you're planting trees. You're not looking after the soil. So we introduced a whole soil conservation program, and that's what we continue to do for them. Okay? So they have nurseries like this all over Malawi. And in each nursery, there are hundreds of thousands of trees, none of which grow in that area. They all come from southern Malawi, from the National Botanical Gardens. So we're slowly changing that mode of thought. We told them, forget about this cultivating trees. Just go and cut cuttings in the bush of plants that you know will grow from a cutting and use them straight into the veld. Forget about the nurseries. So we kind of seen as a little bit radical, but it works. We've shown them that we can introduce a better system. Next. There's just another view. It's a hell of a thing because you have to protect these seedlings. There's a hell of a sun that shines in Malawi. I don't have the same sun that shines here by us, but just like it's hot there. So they have to build these temporary shelters and move plants around and water them and weed those bags with plants. It's a massive operation. There is one positive thing. Each nursery has about 100 people working there that would otherwise have no work, no food, no money, no nothing. So there is that. Next slide. So these people, the tree planters, they planted both sides of this gully. So now you ask yourself, why plant trees there when all the moisture is going out here every time it rains through the sloot? And that's the kind of thing that we pointed out to them. This charity are Irish-based. What the hell do they know about soil erosion control and planting trees anyway? But they are fatbar for advice, and that's what we do. We give it to them. Okay? So planting trees alone doesn't do the job. We won't restore anything. So the next thing I want to tell you, take-home message. Another thing that we see all over the place is people do restoration, but they don't look at the reason why the place became buggered in the first place. And this is the problem. This is in a national forest in Malawi. So they want us to help with soil erosion control in the national forest. Meanwhile, this is happening every single day. And how it happens is, the law is you may go and you may pick up dead wood. So what they do is they go into the forest, they chop the tree to become dead, and when it's dead, they pick it up, and then they cart it out on bicycles. There are 2 bicycles loaded here with wood. And can you believe they drive around on the cement roads and tar roads where there's traffic with this bloody bicycle loaded like this? You cannot believe it. That's one thing about the people of Africa. Ingenuity, hard work, no problem. Next slide. So dealing with the cause of the problem is huge. Okay, just cutting down invasive alien plants also doesn't do the job. Because very often, and we've seen this with the famous Working for Water project, I don't even know if it runs anymore, they cut the stuff down and then they just leave it, and then within 2 years it's there back and it's even denser than it was before. Next slide. So this is an area that was cleared by a government-funded project, and in a couple of years, I doubt more than 2, it was back and so dense that you can't even walk through it. So the lack of maintenance is a problem. Next. Same thing here. This is a wetland in the Southern Cape that has 3 meters of peat, real peat, like you get in Europe. It's one of the peat wetlands in the Southern Cape, and it's totally invaded with black wattle, and it's a huge problem. Black wattle has shallow roots, so what happens is when there's a flood, those big black wattles there fall over, and then there's a hole, and where there's a hole, there's a head cut, so it just eats back in the peat, upstream all the time, and a big problem. Next slide. But you can do this properly. Here's a farmer who bought a piece of land in the Southern Cape, and he wants to put elephants there for tourism, but first he wants to clear the land of all alien plants. So we're on board with that. So they cut, and they chip, and they cover the ground with the areas where the clearing took place, and then and that's what it looks like now. So it's really good, but the bottom line is follow up all the time. Every time they do a block, they go back a week later, 2 weeks later, a month, and they check it and they make sure that it's gone. Next slide. Okay, this is trying to get rid of torch cactus here in the Eastern Cape. This was sprayed a year ago, and you can see there was some nice deaths, but obviously it wasn't all killed. And the problem is these cacti have a thick, waxy outer layer on them. So if you spray them, very little of that stuff actually goes into the plant. And the result is that the the plant just recovers. And it's so dense in some areas that not even a dog can run through it. So it's a huge problem. And the only way to treat this is to have a couple of guys with large, heavy sticks, and you go in there and you clop those plants, you break them up, you just hit them and hurt them bad, and then you spray them, because then that stuff can get into the plant. So again, follow-up. There was no follow-up after the initial spraying. And again, follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. Next slide. Rampant soil erosion due to decades of overgrazing. I won't mention which game reserve this is. It's actually a national reserve. Next slide. And the erosion is horrific. People are not looking at this. I'm wondering, are they so uneducated that they don't recognize soil erosion, or what is actually the problem? Next slide. So every now and again, somebody gets fear and flum when they build a couple of stone gabions. You know, this is what you've got to do. This is how you fix erosion. But they never go back, and the water works its way around the wall because it's a solid, hard thing, so the water has to go somewhere. If it can't go over, it goes around. We even found a site where the stone net thing was hanging in the air and you could walk through under it. And here you have another example, quite a good idea, fixing a dam wall. But they did it and we thought, oh, it's quite good. We went back the next year and they hadn't gone back and done any maintenance. So it's all washing away. It could have been good if they had just maintained, but they didn't. Slide. Same thing here. People try all kinds of things, bundles of grass, which can work. Tires can work. A lot of people don't like them, but if you do it right, it can work. Next slide. And here you can see, this is what you usually see. People, they gooi a whole lot of tires and they maybe even tie them together and put it in a slurp. But again, tires are hard things. The water has to go under or around or over. If you don't do it right, it doesn't work. And it's chaos. It actually forces the erosion to become wider because it's pushing it outwards. Next slide. And here you have an example of some very nice work done. Thanks to the roads department, they diverted all the stormwater straight into somebody's land, and it had to be fixed up. But again, the work was good, but the follow-up wasn't done. And as you can see, it's going to be a disaster eventually. So this happens, and flooding is the norm. Follow-up maintenance is urgently needed. Slide. This is just a by the way. It has nothing to do actually with what I'm telling you. We came across a farm in the Karoo, Eastern Cape Karoo, where the farmer is fixing all his soil erosion with cattle. So he's got like 600 cattle in an area. He builds a temporary fence. Every night they go into that camp and they dwell around there and whatnot, and they slowly but surely trample those donga flat, completely flat. Then they remove the cattle and move on. It's a kind of a herding situation, and then they don't graze that area. And within a year, you have cover. It's amazing. Okay, the next thing is roads. Roads and erosion is a huge problem, and the need for restoration is absolutely everywhere. They had to fix this road just before we came because you couldn't drive along it because it hadn't been properly constructed or maintained, I guess. So this is the second challenge, which is, I think there's some more words that come on there. Yeah, soil erosion resulting from inadequate road drainage is actually epidemic. Next slide. So inadequate road drainage is generally ignored. Wherever we go, wherever we work, we just see this. And it doesn't get attended to. Next slide. And eventually it looks like this. So what do you do with that? How do you fix that? I mean, it's actually unfixable. So we just cut down all those gum trees and hoid them in the hole and put soil over the top and said, you people must look after your roads, and then moved on. Next slide. We don't tell you where it was. Okay, this is sheer insanity. Here in the Eastern Cape, up in the mountains, guy builds a road right up a mountain, no thought for drainage or anything like that. And you can build a road over a mountain, but you have to take the trouble to make sure that it doesn't become a problem. Next slide. And this is the kind of thing you then need to do. You need to provide, in the very steep bits, you need to provide concrete strips and you need to provide off-road drainage. Drainage, drainage, drainage. Here we are helping some people, a private development in the Little Karoo called Toesburg. Probably one of the best managed conservation areas I've come across, but they really do everything right. So we've shown them how to build drainage humps and how to get the water off the road. You can see the furrow behind that fellow there, and so on. So this is what's necessary. If you're going to have roads, you're going to have maintenance, and you're going to have drainage. It sounds, I mean, it's for you, it must be boring me saying this continuously. Next. Okay, just press your button again. Okay, challenge number 3. There's a general lack of environmental education and practical know-how. This is that mob in Malawi. They're very keen, but they know nothing. They know nothing about the veld. They know how to plant mealies and how to have pigs. Incidentally, a pig that weighs about 300 kilograms can be transported on the back of a 125cc motorbike. I've seen this with my own eyes a couple of times. So they have know-how, but it's not the right know-how. So part of our job is then the education side of things. We try really hard to just instill some kind of ethical relationship to the land. And you know, people have generally lost this. Even our farmers, most of them, you have to really tell them things that they should know. Next slide. Druk again. This is challenge number 4, generally inadequate funding. So above that guy's head to the top, that's peat. That whole river and its little collection point and so on has washed away. Previously because of overgrazing. And that guy just doesn't have enough money to fix this. It's a big job. It's a massive job. The point is, it should never get big. It should be stopped or prevented or ameliorated before it becomes this huge problem. Next, press the button again. Challenge number 5, getting past traditional methods of land management. This is in Rwanda, where we now had very steep slopes on volcanic slopes where the guys farm right up to the top of the blooming volcanoes. And then you tell him, listen, you've got to do this. And you go, no, he says, but we do that. No, but you mustn't do that. We're telling you now how you've got to do it. No, that's how we've done it and what have you. So it's quite difficult just getting the information across in a way that the guys believe you. Until you start doing it and something happens and they see that it works, and with maintenance that it can work, then they will do it. But it's just bridging that gap is very difficult. Next slide. So this is a peat wetland in the Southern Cape. That's all the black peat soil, what's left of it, all washed away. Button. So the challenge here is regulations, impact assessments, cost, time wasted resulting in a loss of a peat wetland. We wanted to do something here. This was just a little trickle in the peat when we started trying to fix this. It was a thing that the Coetzee Biosphere Reserve tried to do. Then we were told, no, you have to do an impact assessment. So we inquired, 300,000 rand. We wanted to fix it with black wattle trees that we could cut down locally and build a structure as only Boertjies can. And they said, no, you can't, because you're not allowed to work inside a river. So subsequently, the entire wetland is washed away. We've lost one of the peat wetlands in the Southern Cape because of stupidity and because of legislation which is not interpreted correctly. Next slide. And button. So challenge number 7 is just getting there. Yes, there's places where we've driven across and I thought, oh, if this bridge breaks now, it's the end of me. This is quite a good one. The average bridge in Malawi doesn't look like this. They're worse. There's places where these poles are what you put your tire on. So it's quite hectic. Next slide. Oh, yeah, and of course the rain season is a challenge in itself. just getting places. But a funny thing about Malawi is if you get stuck, just miraculously, about 50 people appear out of the bush and they negotiate. How many kwachas are you going to give me if we take you out of this mud? And then we say, no, you negotiate a little bit and then they settle. And you have about 50 guys carrying the vehicle out of here and you're paying them something like $10 in total. So, willing hands. Next slide. Next challenge is social and political unrest. We've worked in a couple of places where we were told you can't go in there unless you have a whole military platoon with you to protect you from Boko Haram or whoever it may be. And this was in Nigeria. And this guy never took his helmet off. I wondered whether he actually has a top to his head. And this guy asked him, what kind of wildlife have you still got here in the bush in Nigeria? He said, sir, we shot and ate everything. So that was our introduction to the wildlife. Anyway, we had, I think it was 11 of them with us for 2 weeks in the bush. And they were quite willing, actually. It was quite interesting too. They knew what you could eat, what kind of veldkos you could eat, and so on. But it is a problem. There are lots of parts of Africa where you can't go in and do some good work simply because of the unrest in those areas. Next slide. I'm not sure why the slide is here. Anyway, yeah, hit the button again. Okay, challenge number 9. Restoration is not sexy, like saving black rhinos and mountain gorillas and elephants. So you go out there and try and raise money for soil conservation. Just forget it. But just mention black rhino. The money just starts being put down on the table. It is a challenge. So raising funding for soil erosion and invasive plant control is just not popular. And I think it's ignorance. People just aren't informed. And I think the last slide. Take-home message. If you can't ensure the long-term follow-up maintenance of a restoration effort, whatever it is, then don't even start. Because often the end result is worse than when you started. Thank you.